It's 1851, and two brothers, both professional hitmen, are on their way to kill a man. The Sisters Brothers by Patrick DeWitt was nominated for the Booker Prize and won several literary awards as well. But why? And I don't mean that in a snobbish way. The premise sounded like something I might enjoy, a violent, funny Western adventure about two killers during the gold rush. But what I got was much more of a slow literary anti-Western road novel than an action-packed Western. It's June, so it is June on the Range, and this is a reading event created by Michael K. Vaughan, and it's all about the reading of Westerns. So the Sisters Brothers sounded like a good and fun Western book to read for me for this reading event. But it didn't really work for me. So let's talk about why this book became so award-friendly and why I personally found it so frustrating. First, a little bit about the story. So the story is set during the gold rush. The brothers, Eli and Charlie Sisters, are ordered to kill a man called Herman Kermit Worm. So they travel through Oregon and California to find him. Eli is the narrator, and he is the more sensitive brother, while Charlie is the more violent, dominant, and unpredictable one of the brothers. Now, through Eli's eyes, we see the strange situations they find themselves in, and also his complicated relationship with his brother. This could have been an interesting and fun and thrilling story, but to me it didn't feel that way. And the problem is not simply that it is more about the journey than the assassination. I don't mind a slower story, I must admit. And I don't mind character development, and I don't even need constant gunfights. My problem is that the story felt too fragmented. A lot of things happen, but it didn't build tension for me. So why were so many reviewers and award juries impressed with the Sisters Brothers? I think reviewers saw it as an original literary Western. They praised the dark humor, the quirky tone, and the way the book deals with violence, greed, and moral doubt. They also liked Eli's voice as narrator, and truly I can understand that. And the book plays with familiar Western cliches, like, for example, hitmen, gold, horses, saloons, and family ties and such. But DeWitt doesn't use them in a traditional heroic Western way. He gives them this strange, ironic, deadpan treatment. As concepts, I find it really interesting, but I don't think all of those ideas were equally well executed. My biggest problem with this novel is that I didn't feel a clear suspense arc. The story did not feel to me as if it was building towards the meeting with Herman Kermit Worm. Things happen on the way, along the way, yes. Eli falls in love, for example, and expresses this through generosity rather than actually declaring his feelings. But many of these incidents didn't feel important to the story, not to the assassination plot, and not enough to Eli's personal development. I think deWitt was going for personal development of the sisters brothers. And yes, by the end of the story, I can see both brothers have changed. But I felt indifferent about it. And I think that's because the situations they find themselves in don't put enough pressure on that development. The incidents happen, but they don't always feel like they are forcing the characters to change. And some scenes are very grim. For example, there is a horse falling down a cliff, and I suppose that scenes like that are partly meant to be funny in a dark, absurd way. But I didn't find it funny. I mostly found it uncomfortable to read. And that happened more often for me with the humor in this book. A lot of professional reviewers mentioned this dark humor, but it wasn't really my kind of humor. For example, the brothers meet a boy who says people always hit him, and Eli basically says he understands why people hit him. I understand that humor is one of the hardest things to write, and dark humor is even harder. But in this book, I often found the humor more cruel or just plain dirty than actually funny. There's also the way Eli describes his face after being bitten by a spider. Again, I can't see the attempt of grotesque comedy, but for me, the filth itself seemed to be treated as the joke. And I don't think dirtiness automatically is funny. Even the punchline, if the punchline is disgusting, there still needs to be a comic situation around it. And for me, that often wasn't strong enough here. Now I have to give a spoiler warning, because there is one plot element I found genuinely interesting, and I can't talk about it without spoiling this part of the story. So spoilers from here. Before killing Worm, the brothers have to get a formula from him. And this formula helps reveal the gold in the river. So Worm pours the chemical into the river, and the gold on the bottom lights up so they can collect it. I looked it up and no, there's no real formula that works like this. But as a story idea, I actually find it very interesting. It almost feels like something that could work very well in a more pulpy adventure story. A mysterious chemical, gold, greed, and men willing to kill for it, that should add danger. But again, I don't think deWitt exploits this idea enough. There is a shootout with other villains who want the chemical liquid or the formula. It's not completely clear. But I never felt that the brothers were in serious danger. I expected this element to become more important. For example, I thought maybe these thugs were also sent or hired by the same man who hired the sisters, brothers. That could have created more conflict, more paranoia, and more pressure. But no, the thugs appear, cause some trouble, and then that threat is basically over. And that sums up my issue with a lot of this book. The ideas are more exciting than the execution. So why did the sisters brothers get all these awards and nominations? I think the things that make it award friendly are the subversion, the irony, the moral ambiguity, and the anti-Western structure. It's not trying to be a traditional Western adventure. It's more literary, more deadpan, more interested in tone and character than suspense. And that is completely valid. But for me, something was missing. I wanted more suspense. I wanted more conflict, more action. Not necessarily more action, but more pressure. More sense that either the outside world or the characters themselves were pushing the story towards something unavoidable. I like stories where there's a clear threat, and that threat can be external or internal. But I want some kind of tension, a strong atmosphere. Characters who are in conflict with either the world around them or with themselves. And the Sister Brothers technically has some of those elements. There is violence, there is greed, there's brotherly tension, there's moral doubt. But for me, it never became lively enough. It felt like a literary anti-Western that deliberately takes a distance. That distance is self from adventure. And I think that's why it didn't work for me. So now I'm curious. What do you think? What do you like in a Western story? Is suspense just as important for you as it is for me? Or do you prefer a slow road movie kind of story where the emphasis is more on tone than and character development? Thanks for watching.